Villa had the chance to do the double over Crystal Palace and leapfrog them into a very solid mid-table position, and in the end, a 1-1 draw, I think, actually flattered Aston Villa. So what shall we bemoan today as we sip along a lovely Bastille 1789 French whiskey in honor of Luca Dean? Well, let's find out as we review Villa 1, Palace 1. Ah, Villa, you evil, tempting mistress we're infatuated with, ignoring our own spouses and families to sneak off and spend some quality time away with you, getting all dressed up and excited only for you to not show up. And how do we respond to that? Why, we do it all over again, expecting something else. If my math is correct, it took until Sunday for Aston Villa to confirm its place in the Premier League next season. That has to happen an awful lot sooner in 22-23. And Steven Gerrard did say there's a lot still to play for, even though it looked like some of the players had already booked some tea times at the Belfry. And who am I kidding? I'm mailing it in too. All right, let's get into the Holy Trinity show, named in tribute of that magnificent grandstand pictured there, and of course its glorious predecessor, home to the 1982 European champions. But Trinity also means three, and we like to dissect the three big issues or moments that defined matches. In this case, Villa 1, Palace 1. And by the way, everybody involved in this did a fantastic job. I think football does a great job of paying tribute to past legends. I was 12 years old when all this was going down. It's incredible how fast 40 years flies by and how fast 40 pounds can be put on over that time. But I digress. A close game, you'd think, close statistics? Yeah, they were. I thought from the eyeball test that Crystal Palace actually shaded this game. They did in the XG factor. Both teams had 4 shots on target, Villa with fewer attempts. Accurate passing was good for Villa too. They just didn't do enough with that 84%, and they were outpossessed. But I want to point out Matty Cash. He had 11 recoveries in this game. He was a man of the match candidate. And you'd think 11 recoveries, well, that'd be miles ahead of everybody else in a game. But in fact, it was the same amount as Palace's Milivojevic. My first key issue was that Lil Phil was a little off it on Sunday somehow. And you would have thought, seeing as how this was his first game since signing permanently and being loved and being settled and knowing where his future is going to be, that he would have offered a little bit more oomph, especially because it was on the day that Villa was recognizing 40 years since European glory. Well, he's going to be one of the key people to help establish a European standard within the squad. Maybe we're all asking too much. Maybe his teammates defer to him too much. And let's be honest, he's excellent at holding onto the football. He is a good, accurate passer. You saw the statistics just now. But for Phil Coutinho to be really successful, he has to unlock teams, and that does require his teammates to make good runs at times. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And in this game, it felt like there were just too many hopeful balls and too many stray passes. Key issue, Ings misses. You see, I really am mailing it in. I'm recycling dad jokes and using stuff I had in the Liverpool show. Although in that show I made a mistake. I used the wrong video. What you were supposed to see was John McGinn curling in an absolute peach of a ball. Danny Ings rises the highest uncontested and can't even head the ball on target from there. But on Sunday, he had 3 pretty good chances to hit the score sheet. The first one was a nice ball played into a good area by Douglas Luiz. So they had the connection there, but Ings redirects it wide. The second one was the volley. It popped up perfectly for him just inside the 18-yard box. And we've seen him score goals from there and from the volley, not this time. The best chance, however, was crafted by Ollie Watkins. Again, a nice little combination. And from this range, with Danny Ings making that little bit of room for himself, he absolutely has to test Jack Butland from there. Now, I don't know where to find it, but somewhere out there in the universe is a stat that tracks Danny Ings' big chance conversions. I'm here to tell you it's not going to be good, and this is an issue that needs to be addressed in the summer one way or another. Big moment was Konsa's injury, and the human leg is not supposed to bend this way. Now, this is not really a short-term issue because the season is almost over, but if this is worse than just a strain as we await the scan results to come back, then that will only intensify Aston Villa's search for an elite center back this summer. And when I say elite center back, I'm not talking about Joe Gomez. With all due respect to the guy, I'm sure he has heaps of potential, but I think Aston Villa needs a center back that's in the 28 to 30-year-old range and one that is regularly playing in European competition. Key-ish issue? This guy is a moaning, whinging, miserable I once had a younger Villa fan message me and say, we got to get Wilfried Zaha on this team. He would be the answer to all of our problems. Pay him what he wants. Oh, there'd be problems. Constantly leveraging a move somewhere else for a bigger contract. And then there's the pantomime villain act. Always lobbying, campaigning, and moaning for fouls, bookings, ejections. Now, if you're a teammate of this, I could see maybe sometimes it's nice to have that villain on your team to distract everyone else. But every single game with this act, wouldn't that become tiresome after a while? No thanks. Number 3 was the midfield minefield of this game. Answer this question and be honest now. But who has the better squad right now between Palace and Villa? And the table don't lie, does it? Because I was thinking about this throughout the game. I think we win the goalkeeper battle, and I think we have better fullbacks. After that, it seems very even to me. And, they have the effervescent Conor Gallagher in their ranks, okay, on loan, and the youthful Eze. That's a lot of mobility and athleticism and energy. And I just wonder with the double pivots, too, of Milivojevic and Koyate, that Villa really struggled getting through their midfield, unlike some of the past games. And I'm not sure if that's just a personnel and talent issue, or if that's more of a systems and tactics-based issue. In fact, tactically and strategically, the 4-3-1-2 or 4-4-2 narrow diamond somehow did not match up with the 4-2-3-1 of Crystal Palace. And it changed when Buendia and Coutinho played together, which was nice to see finally behind Ollie Watkins. So kind of 2 10s like Gerrard liked to play at Rangers. And also Jacob Ramsey coming on made a big difference because he can get past people. He can get around people, through people even. He is a very unique footballer. Douglas Luiz, I believe, on the right-hand side could be the same, especially if he continues to build that chemistry with Phil Coutinho. By the way, how about the slide rule pass that Emi Buendia played for Ollie Watkins in the 92nd minute? I mean, just a little bit more weight, and Watkins might have been through to hit the target. But I hope we get to see more of those two together because I think it causes different kinds of problems for teams, especially then when you activate the fullbacks and you activate an athletic type player like Ramsey or a more attack-minded midfield Luiz. Coaches have a saying, it's the player without the ball that makes the play. We all think, well, Buendia has the ball, he's passing it, he's the playmaker, but no, it's the off-the-ball movement that unlocks opponents. And so many times on Sunday, Villa's midfield had the ball, and they couldn't go through, and they couldn't go around, and so they resorted to hoisting it hopefully over towards Watkins and Ings without effect, or they went backwards and recycled it around the back. We did not test Jack Butland enough for a home game at Villa Park on Sunday. And I know off-the-ball movement is hard work. It's hard work in training. It requires a lot of diligence, and it requires hard work in games, and it requires game IQ. And we didn't have enough of that on Sunday. Number 2, delightful Dean. One player that has bags of footballing IQ is Luca Dean, who I think will be a manager one day, and I can almost imagine him lying on a treatment table in a darkened, candlelit room, swilling a Bordeaux and smoking a rolled-up Jetin cigarette, listening to Edith Piaf, wondering, why do my players not understand or think the game the way I do? I mean, he was easily a man of the match candidate on Sunday, always available, got out of tight areas often, and it was his delivery that set up the Villa goal, which kind of came against the run of play. And I honestly thought that Villa were going to lock it down at that stage, maybe even extend their lead, catching Crystal Palace trying to push for the equalizer. Statistically, Luca Dean created 3 chances in this match, which is very good for a fullback in any game. He was 2 out of 3 on accurate long balls, 80% passing ratio, not bad, 6 recoveries, and he didn't have to make a single tackle as a fullback in this match because he puts himself in positions that don't require tackles to be made. And that is his craft, that is his vision, that is his game IQ, and of course, he has an exquisite touch, and he did actually test Jack Butland from range with a very decent strike. Okay, he doesn't have the pace and energy of Matty Cash, supporters Player of the Year, but I think it's good to have complementary and unique challenges in your squad for the opposition to have to deal with. But imagine you bring in a quality center back, central midfielder, and striker, people who understand that if they make a clever or intelligent run, that either they're going to get the ball from Luca Dean or he'll find the player that's not being covered because the run drags an opponent away. Luca Dean's game is all about doing what you least expect at the time or him disguising what he's about to do at the right time. I think about a 10-year younger Olivier Giroud is a good example of a very intelligent forward, but there are other guys out there. And when I think about a footballing center back, to have Luca Dean on your left-hand side, like the other kind of football quarterback who throws the ball and trusts his teammate to run the right pattern to arrive at the same time as the ball, that opens up a world of possibilities, especially in tight games that sometimes require that one moment of intelligence. And the number one big issue or moment that defined Villa 1, Palace 1, and I fear it transcends this game into the entire season, but it is our identity issues. Who are we? What do we want to be? What do we want our club to look like on the park? Does anybody ever ask you, well, how does Villa play? And you go, I don't know. It's kind of different from week to week. And my fear is, and I hope I'm wrong about this, there's not one singular individual at the club right now who is able to articulate that broader vision of what Aston Villa Football Club needs to look like. Is it Steven Gerrard? And is he saying, well, I want to play like Liverpool does? Because I don't think it's Johan Lange. This question cannot be answered through analytics. There must be a broader context to how Aston Villa is going to play. And then you need to fill the blanks with really laser-focused recruitment. It's one thing to find talent, to find quality, to get value and great attitude, and maybe even room for growth. It's quite another to make sure that that player complements what you already have. And we say the number 6 or a number 8. Well, within those positions, you can have such a wide array of players and personalities. I mean, a number 6 alone, well, look at who we've been linked with and how different they all are in how they function. And you got to pick the right one of those. I know Liverpool is an extreme example of outstanding recruitment over the last few years because they have a lot of resources and they just seem to keep building on top of success over success. But to add a guy like Luis Diaz so that he fits in almost immediately and now looks like he's been playing with them for a long time is really quite remarkable and rare. Liverpool's performance in the FA Cup last weekend was absolutely breathtaking. In fact, both teams played at a remarkably high standard despite the stalemate. They're going hammer and tongs 100 miles an hour, doing everything at the highest quality and at the top speed. And this is despite playing a lot of football. The best thing that Jurgen Klopp has brought to that club was his laser-focused vision of exactly how he wants to play and the specific little ingredients that all the squad members need to achieve that vision. And then he has to double down and do it twice because he has to build a bigger squad that can step in or rotate as they try to chase 4 trophies. Villa are not yet a high-scoring, high-flying attacking team. There have been hints here and there, and we're not a stout and dominant defensive unit. Yes, 11 clean sheets on the season is good, but we're not a dominant defensive team yet. And a great example is Sunday, because we were doing okay, defensively strong, I thought. Good blocks, good positioning, good commitment. And then, one ball and one lost aerial duel and a very alert Jeffrey Schlupp. And suddenly it's 1-1 from a set piece. I know fans will say, well, I want to be both. Let's score a ton of goals and keep clean sheets. That's not easy to do. The danger is you build a team around, say, Phil Coutinho, who's totally different than Emi Buendia, and then Phil Coutinho gets injured. Well, you've brought in all these players to complement him. Well, now what? Do you change your shape all over again? My issue with Villa's recruitment of late is it feels like it's somewhat random and in isolation, not part of a broader plan. Like they had Emi Buendia and they bring in Phil Coutinho. So now there's 2 number 10s and Coutinho's a completely different type of footballer than Buendia. Like if you were building a squad around Coutinho, would those players be the same as the ones you'd build around Emi Buendia? Probably not. They had Matt Targett. Was he having a good season? Not necessarily. In Luka Dean. They had Ollie Watkins, but last summer they brought in Danny Ings. Yes, they needed another striker, but did they need one so similar? I think they needed a complementary striker to the hold-up type that Ollie Watkins is. So here's where I'd love to be a fly on the wall in those discussions between Johan Lange and Steven Gerrard and maybe even Michael Beale, because by all accounts, he's a very, very good footballing mind. Are they talking big picture? What should the club look like in 6 months, 1 year, 18 months? Is there a bigger plan than just going shopping? Because you don't want to do that going into such an important window like the one coming up. Maybe we could take some inspiration or cues from the European glory team that was being recognized on Sunday. Tony Morley, effervescent, bustling, scoring, pacey winger. Do you see hallmarks with Jacob Ramsey at times down that left-hand side, even though he often lines up as a number 8? You have a big aerial presence central defender in Alan Evans and a footballing center back in Ken McNaught. Well, can Tyrone Mings play the Evans role, maybe chipping in with more goals now and then? And then how about the strikers? Peter With, Gary Shaw, a target striker and a poacher. Ollie Watkins, Cameron Archer. We have 2 great fullbacks. We have some luxury number 10s. But who plays the Mortimer and Cowans roles? I look at John McGinn and I look at Douglas Luiz and Marvelous Nakamba and I go, this is where the issues are. And how long have we been saying that? Either you need to upgrade there or you need to reimagine their roles. Man, that looks cool. Of course, it looks cooler with people in it. But again, kudos to everyone who made for a splendid day and a wonderful tribute. And the categories that we've been following all season did change somewhat. 1 extra point for games at Villa Park, but still that record has to improve next year. Ollie Watkins did score. Did you think it was an own goal? He'll take it. So 11-18 between the 2 strikers. Austin McPhee's plus minus on set pieces goes down because the goal conceded was off a set piece and everything else stays the same. Honestly, I'm not gutted about this game. I'm somewhat indifferent. I'm counting down to the end of the season now and looking forward to summer and some business getting done, but I would love to see Aston Villa contribute to Burnley's relegation. Bad enough that Bournemouth's coming up next year. Until that time, be happy, be grateful that we are, in fact, in the Premier League. And as always, up the mighty Villa.